because it is time for everybody's favorite moment, and it is called Dave Meltzer's Dumb Moment of the Week. We talked about earlier in the show how, this stuff is being booked on the fly, and this stuff is being, and you guys know that just Figure 4 Online, Bryan Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, all gets lumped into this segment if this is your first time tuning into it. Tony Khan reportedly, so the Wrestling Observer said before, he's right, or Bryan Alvarez said more specifically, he's changing these scripts on the fly. Like, that's what they're saying. They're admitting it. Tony Khan reportedly changed the script for AEW Double or Nothing, leaving most people with no idea what they were doing until an hour or so before the show. It legitimately is more like 2019 WWE than it is 2019 AEW. Whatever the that means. Tony switched the script on yesterday's pay-per-view multiple times during the afternoon. Most people, not just the wrestlers, have no idea what they're doing until the day of the show, and sometimes not until an hour or so before the show. People are flown to towns and given nothing to do. Others are begged the day before the show to please get to the town so they can do something last minute. The boys? Oh, the boys? Oh, you mean they were making shit? Oh, no, you mean I talked to them and I fucking told you guys exactly what Bryan Alvarez is saying now? He knows what he wants to do for pay-per-views, although this often changes. But as far as week-to-week TV, everything is booked show to show. It's great. It's Tony McCon, dude. He's spread too thin. He's booking like shit. He doesn't know how to book this stuff. For most people, Tony Khan's incredibly difficult to get a hold of. Like, what the fuck? Oh, no, this isn't like other wrestling companies. In some ways, it legitimately is more like 2019 WWE than it is 2019 AEW, where he was much easier to get a hold of. He had a very complex long-term storytelling.
That's bullshit.
That's bullshit. Yeah. Many people had a good idea of what they were doing and when things were going. And where things were going. And often most of the following week's entire Dynamite card was booked and announced before the previous week's Dynamite had even ended. Remember when Excalibur would run down 24 matches in 30 seconds for the following week? It's night and day, the changes, and people who work for the company in all roles for the wrestlers, from the wrestlers to the office, talk about it all the time. Yeah, we've been talking about it all the time, Brian. Way to catch up, Brian. Jeepers, man.
Why do you think they do that, Phil? Why do you think they come up like at least like 6 months to 1 year late on a lot of these things that a lot of people were saying? What do you think that could be attributed to?
Because they like sucking on the teat. They're all just sucking on the teat. And then when it's not going their way, or when
how about when it's too obvious?
They see it, well, because they see the writing on the wall and they're trying to save face while they can. That's what I truly believe. They're just like, okay, we have to start being critical because, and last week we covered how, or on the weekend, we covered how Tony Khan pulled like women's wrestlers off of like Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer's Friends indie show. Like a contributor to Observer. He runs like indie dates, and AEW pulled a bunch of women off of the show, and then there were like only 4 women on the pay-per-view, so who knows why they were doing that. And Meltzer said pointed that out, which was shout him out for that. But yeah, I just think they're starting to just call it out, because I think they realize like, okay, we're less and less credible every single time we defend this shit. And I think they're seeing people like me blow up in the space. Maybe not me specifically, but people like me who are keeping it fucking upbeat with you people about it. Like, I want to like AEW. I was sports entertained by that main event. It was whatever. Like, if that's one match in the middle of like a bunch of brilliant stories, okay, I'll give you that one. Give me some flippy indie. Sometimes I just like flippy indie too, but it's definitely like, I'm going to be critical of it as well and laugh at it and make jokes. And I don't know, these people want to be taken, like, they want to be opinion people, but then they want to be news people, and you really can't do both. You really can't. You either show people the news and laugh about it and make fun of it and just give your opinion, or you're reporting the news and you're digging it up and you're handing it out and you're leaking it and you're all of that sort of shit. You got to pick a lane, and these guys just I don't know, man. I just think they're.
But what these guys want to be known for, scoops
and just being right about shit. That's
right.
All they care
now.
about.
Here's the problem that these guys are facing. All of them is that this industry survives on the fact that they don't give you anything. They make you guess. They keep you wanting. And so what makes you think that you guys are going to gain any more credibility than you already have lost by the simple fact that you're going to you're going to give away the script of the next program, or you've got somebody's contract figured out? No, my friend. This is all speculation, from Cultaholics to fucking Fightful to Wrestling Observer. Until, for example, just like the deal, Evil Dose, Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer, Awful Wrestling. Until we see something that says they got a deal or they didn't get a deal, everything that we say is speculation. I don't know how you can thrive as a business just based on speculation. You're not quite the sun yet. You're not quite, the onion yet. So if you're going to pick a lane in being like some sort of news outlet for professional goddamn wrestling, you're going to have to make sure that you toe a fine line between you're just propping up the entire industry. You're not taking any sides. You're just basing the news based on news, and you're not trying to scoop anything. Or the only way you can scoop somebody is if you interview somebody right after an incident, an event, a monumental, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. Other than that, trying to get the scoop on things, or trying to be like, oh, we got that prediction right, big fucking deal. It's not worth my $12.
Yep. No doubt. And so this is part's hilarious to me. I brought it up earlier in the show. Story broke that Tony Khan was disappointed in WBD's deal. Well, Bryan Alvarez and Wrestling Observer, they come out with a report saying AEW has denied that Tony Khan was disappointed by the first offer from WBD. However, Bryan Alvarez confirms he was, quote, unhappy. What the fuck? Come on, Awful. Like, oh no, he wasn't
downtrodden,
disappointed, but he was unhappy with the like, come on, man. It's just so stupid. So this is the quote. I've talked to a lot of different people about this. This is my understanding, and we've talked about this on the show. I've been talking about this for a long time. Tony would obviously like a lucrative deal, but my understanding is what he wants is a package deal that includes many different things. So Dose is right about that. No, because that's what he's been saying. Tony wants the package thing, and WBD doesn't want that shit. So, anyways, though,
what does he mean by the package thing?
Like, he wants like Tony's trying to give WBD Ring of Honor, Collision, Rampage, Dynamite, and they're sitting there going, we don't want any of that shit.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
He wants a renewal for the television, and it would would like some sort of pay-per-view aspect to this, right? So he's trying to cut them in on the pay-per-view deals. Like, he wants a package deal, like, oh, well, look at our pay-per-views, look at our Ring of Honor, look at our Ring of Honor pay-per-views, look at our Collision show. And WBD's like, dude, we want Dynamite and your pay-per-views. That's what we're interested in. So whatever the deal with Max would be. Then he wants something involving the AEW TV library. So he's trying to lump in the library on top of it. I've been told he wants something that involves all of these different things. What I was also told is that the original offer did not include all of these things, and he was unhappy with the offer because he wanted everything. So he wasn't disappointed. He was unhappy, and a lot of these things aren't included. So Evil Dose is right about that whole thing that he's talking shit about. I'm sorry. I don't care if it makes people mad. I'm sorry, but it's the goddamn truth. Dose was saying the same shit. I know a lot of people say similar shit, but I mean, yeah, he wants the package deal. And they don't want the package deal. They're like, we'll take Dynamite if it continues to get sort of the same viewership, sure. And then we'll cut in on the pay-per-views, put them on Max. You know what I mean? But like Peacock, but other than that, like, we're not interested. So the same exact people who bitch and complain about wrestling being predictable are the same people who comb dirt sheets looking for insider information. Exactly. And look at what happened, Derek Hans, in NXT last night. Where Ethan Page showed up, Jordan Gray showed up. It's good that none of these marks knew and leaked that shit.
Precisely.
Returns, Punk, they don't know any of that shit. But when it comes to AEW, they always know because they love to be told this stuff. And yeah, sorry, what were you going to say, Awful?
No, I wholeheartedly agree with Derek there.
Meltzer just basically is, oh, Tony was unhappy, and he's confirming though, like, yeah, he wants to lump all this shit together, and they're not interested in that. And Dose is just saying, look, man, they set a number, it's what it is. They fucking are gonna walk away if Tony doesn't agree with whatever they're giving him. Like, they're not budging. He even brought in other lawyers. It's not working. They don't want any part of it. So I don't know, man. He's going to look like an idiot for turning down that. Like, he turned down that CW Ring of Honor deal thinking he was going to group it with AEW and get a better thing with WBD. And it just don't goddamn work that way. Right. I forgot also, yeah, Jake Hager left AEW as well. I forgot to bring that up.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do want to say this. From all these guys, Sapp, Meltzer, Alvarez, you name them, the one thing that these guys do not have that guys like you and Marv and a lot of other wrestling fans have is the simple fact that they're not entertaining. They don't got no ha-has behind it. They're not humorous when they say their shit. Why are you trying to be like Tom goddamn Brokaw? This is a silly-ass profession. Stop trying to be goddamn Ted Koppel or Anderson Cooper or Wolf Blitzer and show a little bit of your humanity, I guess, your sense of humor. But that's the other thing. A lot of these guys don't have a good sense of humor. And when they do show it, they just fucking suck. You're not clever. You're not witty. Go back to the fucking drawing board with that bullshit.
Yeah, man. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And here's the other thing. Even a guy like Ariel Helwani, he's clever and witty and funny, and he reports real fucking news. And that's why the MMA Hour is such a hit in the MMA world. And it's like Wrestling Observer, it's not a hit throughout. Like, everybody can agree whether you like Ariel or not. It's like, okay, his show adds value. Whether you like Dave or not, everyone agrees that his shit just adds no value. You know what I mean? Maybe the people who listen to it don't agree.
Have you not looked at the comment sections that he's gotten? Like, there are so many. He's got a little fucking fan base that will go rock with him through thick and thin. But the problem is it's too analytical. And there are some people that come to me and are just like, well, you spend a lot of time dealing with the death of AEW, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, no, I don't. Why don't you point that same finger to guys like Dave Meltzer or Brandon Thurston who do this shit 24/7? And it's just like, what are you getting out of this? What's the agenda here? Especially when it's obvious that you're caping for one fucking company over the other one. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to be too long for this world as a business if you keep doing that bullshit, because people are going to see right through that shit. Just play. If you're going to play it straight, don't try to be so nerdy and analytical. Like, okay, because believe it or not, folks, WrestleNomics themselves, when it comes to AEW, doesn't have all the facts there. It doesn't have all the numbers there. He himself is doing a goddamn guessing game. That's why you'll never see me go like, well, I think you're going to get this. I think no. My whole thing is just like, they're not getting a deal, and that's the end of that. I don't care what kind of number you throw at me. They're not going to get one. So
see, I maintain they're going to get one, and then if you want to talk numbers, just lower them. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I am kind of, dude.
No, I'm sure.
I think I have to be to do this show. Come on, dude. I jump on here and spurg out for 6.5 hours. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So Dave Meltzer continues on AEW. Speaking of redacted, as I try and use.
I'm sorry, redacted.
AEW's future in many ways. Future as far as profitability goes, or level of profitability, is completely dependent upon this. Like, see, Dave is even just doom and glooming in himself, going, "Yo, the whole profitability of the company depends on this," and he's the one who put this in everyone's minds that it's like make or break for this deal with them. You know what I'm saying? And it's so funny how they're not getting the money. Everybody predicted it. Dave's wrong. He's the all-seeing fucking eye of pro wrestling, according to him. And that is according to him. Oh, the stars are just his opinions. No, bitch. He says they're objective fact. That's what he says. So anyways, Dave goes on and says, I mean, that is going to be their key revenue stream. Can they increase attendance? I mean, they haven't, but I mean, Could they, if they get hot? Sure, but that's minor for everyone right now. The better the television deal, the more they can reasonably afford to bid on wrestlers. See? Why is that your mentality? Oh, we need to bid on more wrestlers. That's never worked yet. That hasn't worked yet for you. No one's going to turn it around until you start running house shows, you start training and developing your own fucking stars, and you get Tony Khan out of the creative and he stops listening to you, Dave. They could sign bigger name wrestlers when contracts are up. Who's a bigger name than Edge, Mercedes Moné, Paige, who had a fucking movie by The Rock made about her? Like, who else is bigger? Who's going to come in and do anything? They had fucking CM Punk and they ran him out of the company. They have Daniel Bryan, who had a whole fucking WrestleMania built around him, and they fucking fumbled the bag there too. So who's going to come in, Dave? Like, Jesus Christ. The New Day? Roman Reigns is going to come sign? Like, what the fuck? Sure, but that's minor for everyone. Oh, sorry. Sign more stars. They'll be around, but it would be harder to get as many top wrestlers to come over if the deal comes in low. So according to Meltzer, Tony's whole game plan here is just sign top wrestlers from WWE, and then it'll explode our company. That's never worked. There very clearly is significant negotiations going on, and WBD does want to keep the programming. I don't think there is a chance that no one is going to want the show. I mean, I know there's people who are wanting to hear that nobody wants the show. He failed. Now what's he going to do? I don't think that's going to happen. You awful. Dave's calling you out. But as far as where it ends up, who would be interested? There's a lot of stations out there, and it's a highly rated show. But the question is it worth to a station more than $125 million a year? Dave, where are you getting this number? You just which to me is the key figure. I think if you're at 110 million, they'd break even or be profitable. Dude, they lost 150 million last year, according to WrestleNomics and shit. Maybe even a little lower, but 125 million is healthy profits. If it's 110 million and they gave up the pay-per-view somehow, it's not a great deal. Dave, they will not even get 100 million for this shit. And you are fucking throwing these numbers around that you're making up out of thin air. And then you're telling people that these made up thin air numbers is what the entirety of AEW is riding on. And that's why
my theory is holding up a little bit more weight than it did yesterday in summarizing that and saying that Dave Meltzer is not writing for today. He's writing for post-apocalyptic America when there is no electricity, there are no TVs, and his shit will be in print somehow. The foreign guard who will be running the states will be reading the Wrestling Observer newsletter and will be reading about this AEW that used to be this hot fire product. And for some various reason, the evil overlords of American dictatorship beat out AEW, and now they're out of business.
Yeah, man. I agree with you on that fully. And well, for sure, dude. I mean, you're just spitting. I mean, the problem is that he's galvanizing these people to fucking, they're going to think that if they don't do this, it's not a success either. People who might be like anti-AEW as well. Like, he doesn't understand how this is just backfiring in AEW's face. And every time I do this segment, I start bumble fucking my way around too. Cause Dave it's so hard to wrap my head around how he doesn't get how the way he does this just hurts fucking AEW, man. It doesn't help them when you're just making these numbers up and doing this. According to Dave Meltzer,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, at Meltzer said what goes on to say, according to Dave Meltzer, AEW sources have told him that the first offer was not disappointing to Tony Khan. After the reporting came out, it was pointed out by some online that Baloney is longtime friends with WWE CEO Nick Khan, I guess. So the guy who is saying, so Meltzer's refuting Baloney's report that Tony Khan was disappointed, and said no, he wasn't disappointed, he was unhappy, and and then pointed out that Baloney's friends with Nick Khan, of CEO of WWE. So therefore, Dave took
what was I talking about earlier? Networking, connections, people who know other people.
And so Dave took it upon himself to just point out, oh no, he's with the Fed bad. Tony wasn't disappointed, he was unhappy. It's like, you guys are fucking sick in the head. You know what I mean? Like, this is lunacy. We're operating in Looneyville Dave time. So Meltzer said what puts it together here. I'm not going to read all of the newsletter. I'll get a fucking brain aneurysm. But Dave taking it upon himself. He's always throwing himself into other shit. He talks more about AEW, though, and then there's a couple things Dave had to say about WWE. But Dave talks about AEW and talking specifically about MJF and saying, or Double or Nothing, and says that they should have cut 2 matches from Double or Nothing. I say 3 or 4 matches from Double or Nothing and get rid of that pre-show shit or whatever. But Dave's saying they should have cut 2 matches from Double or Nothing. And Dave says, I think 2 less matches probably would have been a good idea, especially because that Max thing was real long. You mean the only thing that worked is what you're complaining about, Dave? You needed 4 more Osprey flips. The people went nuts for him as expected, but it's not like he had 20 minutes worth of material. Like, what did he have to say? Dave, he cut a solid promo, man. He basically,
but it was too goddamn long.
He basically killed off the devil thing. Yeah, I know it was too long, but it was the most interesting thing on the goddamn show. So give me more of that. If there's anything I'm going to put over, it's that. So, but he basically killed off the devil thing. Yeah, no, Tony Khan did that when he fucking booked it the way he did, Dave. But yeah, he goes with Adam Cole and said that he signed, which everybody already knew, and the dirt sheets all confirmed what Phil Marks said a year ago on this fucking show, that he re-signed during that whole fake propaganda they spewed to you guys about him no-showing an event, and then Wardlow squashed him as punishment. He re-signed for millions of dollars and years then. But anyways, the promo was really, really good, but as it was going, I was like, it's going to be a long show. We don't need a 20-minute promo, which is true. Like, he should have saved half of that promo for this Dynamite, but instead they're like, no, he'll be here next week. Here's a bunch of luchadors versus Claudio in a gauntlet. Oh man. But yeah, Dave is saying that he's being real about they need to cut matches out, and he's sort of shitting on MJF. I wonder why. What is that? You know what I mean? He's sort of it seems like Osprey's his pet, and he's sort of just shitting on everyone else as of late. What say you, Awful?
The going word is that he's trying to regain credibility or hold on to the last vestiges of his credibility by touting Will Ospreay and putting all of his chips on Will Ospreay, saying that he's going to become and he will become the world champion. It's painfully obvious to see. But I mean, that's not going to sustain Dave's credibility, because there's a million other things that he's been talking about that are just like, boy, that's bullshit. But again, I mean, he'd be taken a lot. Actually, he'd be taken a lot more serious if he were more comedic. That's just my, assessment of it. If he were a little bit more humorous instead of trying to be so goddamn serious all the time.
Okay, so Dave, though, he's critical of WWE. Awful. He's critical of them as well, as you can imagine.
Duh.
So they do this really cool tale of the tape here. So let's read this. Otis versus Big Bronson Reed. 5'10", 6 feet. 330, 330. 24-inch neck, 20-inch neck. 60.5-inch chest, 59-inch chest. 72-inch wingspan, 74-inch wingspan. Both men can bench press 600 pounds. Dave Meltzer has disputed the validity of WWE's claim that Otis and Bronson Reed can both bench press 600 pounds, as seen during the tale of the tape before their match on WWE RAW. Dave, why do you even waste time on your show? It's fucking pro wrestling. It's kayfabe. If he spent less time talking about this shit and worried about this shit to find anything to be critical of WWE of, he could not fast forward through the matches like he admits he does. But Dave goes, they said they could both bench Tony Khan 600
But why
pounds.
the fuck is that a topic of discussion with this guy?
It's so funny. It's like, I would never bring this up on my goddamn podcast. You know what I mean? This is crazy.
Geek.
So they're really strong guys, but 600-pound bench press, that's like Doug Furnace, Scott Norton. You know what I mean? You don't think?
Yeah. That really gets the girls hot, Dave, knowing that sort of information.
That's like a different level of strong. I know they're both good deadlifters. Have you
that one at
been
the
in the
club.
gym with them, Dave? Bronson Reed, a couple years ago, he had actually mentioned to me that he benched 460, which is a hell of a bench press. But when they say 600, he ain't benching 600 pounds. That's a different level. Dave knows. Dave is that's a whole different level of bench pressing. Fucking Dave, man. Oh my God. Who knows? It's fucking pro wrestling, dude. It's a work. Hey Dave, you also know people can't fight with their hands in their pockets. And fucking Malachi Black's fucking miss doesn't really corrupt your soul and make you spooky.
Right. But he'll give
You
that
know that,
bullshit
right?
4
You fucking
stars.
little kid. He's like a kid.
Dummy. Yeah.
He's like a kid you dangle keys in front of, man. It's so goddamn funny to me. Oh my God. Shit. Okay, so then he talks about the women's matches from King and Queen of the Ring. So Dave Meltzer is going to put over the women's matches from Double or Nothing, of course. But he had to talk about the women's matches in King and Queen of the Ring, where there were as many women featured on this 6-match card, and more if you count the pre-show tag match. There was actually double than were featured on Double or Nothing, where Dave was getting all schmarmy with people about the amount of women on Double or Nothing. So anyways, Meltzer comments on the matches and says, the women's matches, I wouldn't even bother. None of them were good. It's like, bro, Nia Jax had the best finish of the whole card. She had one of the matches, my favorite match, I think, from the card. The crowd really helped the Becky Lynch match. They had a lot of issues. Dave, did they? But the crowd really helped them. And the other two women's matches, I thought below average for both of them. Why? They did the fucking Yokozuna finish with Nia and Lyra. Like, what didn't you like about it, Dave? Like, I don't get it. Like, Nia didn't do a fucking moonsault to the outside. No one got fucking doomsday deviced from a tope over the top rope. I just don't get it. Now,
There was no check in his mailbox. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Nia Jax this was like the greatest match of all time, but it's like, God damn it, man, you're really gonna shit on this, and then he's gonna go ahead and put over fucking what? Like Thunder Rosa and Purrazzo, who were great workers, but like the crowd didn't give one singular fuck about that match. And this match had stories for the Queen of the Ring, and they did a great it seemed like a Yokozuna type finish, man. I don't know your thoughts on Dave's comments there, and what did you think about the Saudi show and the women's matches, I guess, particularly?
I liked the Nia Jax, Lyra, Valkyria. It was an okay match. Dave obviously is not getting paid by the WWE, so he's not going to think favorably of it. I'm not getting paid by the WWE. I thought the matches were good. It felt like a glorified house show where everybody, they probably got a pep talk. We're in Saudi Arabia. Let's keep this good. Let's keep it tight. Keep everybody safe. You can almost tell when the entire roster has been coached right before pay-per-view, because everybody just kind of brings it. And if you've ever played sports in high school or college or anything like that to that level, you can understand where that sort of mentality comes from, and you can kind of feel it in the air. Everybody wanted to bring their best, whereas in AEW, there isn't that rah-rah, let's go out there and give them a fucking show. It's very individualistic, and
that's that. I love that you say that, because I try to highlight that. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's all I've got to say on that. I mean,
yeah, I just feel like there's more accountability to keep your body in shape and all of those. Like, look at Carl Anderson. He's just on NXT. He's fucking shredded right now. It's like, yeah.
Say what you will about the WWE locker room, how nice and polite, and they all play video games. I'm sure there's still a bit of shame that goes on in that company, which keeps you tight, which keeps you on your toes. It lets you know, like, you can't half-ass it when you're in this company. I'm sure there's that. It's just like people in the chat, guys, at work, girls, at work. There's a certain level that you get to with people where you feel comfortable around them, and when your shit's looking like it's not, when your position or your job is not up to snuff, they're going to make fun of you before they, take away some points or give you some points or fire you or suspend you or whatever. But you know how it goes. And I'm sure it's the same way in that industry too. In WWE, it's probably a little bit more tighter. Sure, they all like each other and all that, but there's still that whole energy of like, yeah, dude, that wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
You might want to try a little bit better next time.
Yeah, with that, guys, that was Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the week.